All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. Okay, so thank you everybody for that's online. Thank you everybody in the room. So my name is Rich Jester. Today we're continuing our 2026 AI workshop series. Today we're going to be focused on AI and LLMs for small business. So, and thank you to everyone who's attended in the previous sessions. So you're going to start to see a lot more of the feedback from previous sessions incorporated as we go forward. Um, In this session, we're going to be focusing primarily on demonstration and tool usage. I'm going to try to, even though there's a lot of PowerPoint slides in this deck, I don't want anybody to be scared. I am not meticulously going to go through every one of these slides. I'm going to go through a lot of the tools and stuff that are in here, but then we're going to jump into actual use cases. So the goal here is to give small business owners or potential small business owners tools, tactics, and strategies that they can use AI to make their lives easier. So, and part of that, again, just to introduce myself, in addition to serving as the secretary of the Delaware Artificial Intelligence Commission, my full-time job is I'm a program manager in the legal department at JPMorgan Chase. So my job is essentially using any kind of emerging technology to find ways to pay counsel less money and to make things go a lot faster. So my job is to use technology to essentially take work away from attorneys or professionals so they could focus on more high value things. So a lot of what I'm going to show you is not because I've been sitting in a classroom for the 4 years hearing people theoretically talk about AI. I'm someone who's actually building these applications. So you'll start to see, like, for those of you that attended my last session where I talked a lot about Google tools, today we're probably going to talk equally as much about Anthropic and Claude today. And again, as we go through and we talk about this, one of the things that I like to mention is just because I use Anthropic and Claude doesn't mean ChatGPT is not useful. If you find those models useful, use them. Every single day, there's changes being made to these models. They're expanding, they're changing. Sometimes things worked really well before. Tomorrow, they might not work as well. Other times, yesterday, they might not have worked at all, and tomorrow, they may work perfectly. So if you happen to try anything in here and it doesn't work 2 months from now, that's probably why. And again, I'm going to show you examples of how you can use this technology at a high level. But before I do that, I want to do a quick survey. So if everybody can go to either on your phone or on your device, go to menti.com and use the code 59858803. Don't worry, I'm not letting it go away. Because this is going to help me as a presenter cater the information to you. So this is going to be just a quick survey to get an idea of who's with us today, what your knowledge level is on AI, so that I know whether I can start with some of the basic stuff or I can go ahead and jump right in and start with some more of the advanced stuff where I'm jumping in and showing you tools that are already installed, how to create applications, that kind of stuff. And again, the goal here is that small business owners already have very little time. Okay, so when it comes to using AI, you want solutions that are going to work quickly, give you what you need, and move on to the next task. Not every small business person is going to have the interest nor the ability to become a part-time software developer. And the reason I say that is because sometimes when you talk to these companies, when you have these vendors come in to talk to your businesses, they're going to sell you, okay, give me $5,000 a year and I'll solve all your problems. The problem is they're going to need you and multiple members of your team sitting with them for multiple hours a day, every week, for multiple weeks to accomplish this. And even if they do that, there's no guarantee that they actually will solve all the problems you have. A lot of what we're going to talk about today are specific use cases where I have a problem, here's a solution for that problem. And then I'm going to also solicit stuff from the audience. So we'll go ahead and get through since see how many people are on this. So we've got 12 people on. So how would you describe your current familiarity with AI tools? Never heard of them, tried a couple times, use them all the time. Okay, not a lot of new people here today. So that we're probably gonna jump through some of the foundational stuff and jump into how you can actually use them, what are the differences between the tools, that kind of stuff. Okay, great. Awesome. Got a couple more people who want to respond just so they make sure that I'm not leaving anybody behind. And again, you could scan the QR code or go to menti.com and enter the thing that's on the right. Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and go to the next question. Which AI tools have you used in the past or heard of? Okay. So again, OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Anthropic Cloud, Microsoft Copilot, Midjourney, or none of these. You can vote multiple times on this one. Okay. A lot of people using ChatGPT, some Gemini, some Copilot. Not a lot of people know Claude. That's good because I'm going to show you a lot of interesting stuff on Claude today. Cool. Try not to repeat prompts, tips, and strategies across workshops. So again, we're going to be focusing on newer stuff with different tools than what you guys saw in the last meeting. Okay, what is your biggest worry about AI? And again, this is just a simple thing. What are you worried about? What's your issues? Can you grab that door? Nobody's worried about AI at all. Nothing scares them. Everybody's completely happy. No one's seen Terminator. Okay. Guardrails and governance. It's a very good thing to be concerned about. Anything else? Being left behind. Dumbing down of society. That's also a valid concern. Privacy, yes. For those of you who have been following our series, our next workshop in May is actually going to be about ethics, privacy, and personalization. So we're going to talk about those features that you can enable on your PC to let the AI learn more about you to provide better results. And, some tips and tricks about what not to give the AI access to on your machine. Because again, we're at kind of a turning point. For so many years, it was don't give your data away, privacy, privacy, privacy. And now AI companies are like, oh, just give me access to all of your email and all of your calendar and everything on your machine, and life will be fine. So we're going to address that a little bit today too. I'm going to go through Claude Desktop because I've actually done the what was actually just released, I believe, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is Claude Cowork. So I actually did give it access to my machine. So we're going to see how that goes. Again, great. So we're going to jump to the next question. What's one task in your business or organization that eats up too much time? This is going to help me cater the use cases today. Okay, writing is a great one. What other things? Repetitive tasks? Be more specific. What kind of repetitive tasks? Like, are you someone that ends up with a giant stack of business cards every day and you're just tired of manually entering them into your phone one by one so that you have all your contacts from a trade show? Data processing, outreach, using the tool, scheduling. Great. Okay. That's definitely something we're going to talk about because I got quite a few marketing tools today about how to do that as well. In experience, here's one thing. I have spent the past 20 years in banking and finance technology. My undergraduate's in English. If you have the tenacity and the commitment, you can learn and build pretty much anything. It just depends on how long you're willing to try at it and how many times you're willing to fail. That's why I said a lot of the knowledge that I've learned is hands-on stuff, not because somebody taught it to me in a class, but because I wanted to solve a problem for something in my life, for my organization, or for my colleagues. Okay, great. Next question. What do you hope to gain from today's workshop? Tools you can use right away, tactics I can use right away, a clear sense of AI limits, a simple plan of action, or peace of mind about AI. People want to see tools, people want to see tactics. All righty then. And people want some peace of mind. Okay, so we'll cover some of the personalization stuff today too. I'm also going to talk about like when you install an AI on your machine, which you shouldn't do, and the general rule is never ever hit allow all on anything. Always do it one at a time. It's tedious, but you don't want the machine to make a mistake and accidentally delete half of your files on your hard drive. So we'll come to that when I go through. I'm going to show you some of the different tools with AI. Okay, great. All right, that covers this. So I appreciate everybody who let me in on, who provided some of that information. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in. I'm going to go through a couple more slides real quick. Again, we changed up the format of this. Before it was 20 minutes lecture, 20 minutes demonstration, 20 minutes Q&A. We're going to focus where the majority of this is going to be demonstrations. So many of you should have already received an email that has this deck in it. So if you want to go and follow along, if you want to download some of the tools, most of the stuff that I'm going to show you today has a free component. It's not going to be like the AI and gaming thing where I show you the Cadillac of gaming thing that costs $125 a month. This is everything that I'm going to show you today is available either on the free plan or on the under $20 plan for either Anthropic Claude or Google Pro. Okay. Okay. We can make sure you get it. So you can just make sure you add your email and make sure you get that. Yeah, one of the things that I had an ask about, and I didn't quite get enough time to do it before this one, was giving out an actual printout in person of all of the links. So we're probably going to start doing that. Okay, this is going to cover our agenda a little bit today. Now, I'm going to go ahead and warn you. Okay, I would love to be here to stop here and tell you that one of these LLMs or AIs will create immaculately engaging and totally awesome PowerPoint presentations that would absolutely not bore someone to death. That is not true. Okay? Most of the time when they tell you you can use an LLM to build a PowerPoint, they're talking about either you need to have a fully fleshed outline up front, or you need to have less than 10 slides in your overall deck. Anything more than that, and you're going to end up editing and changing more than you're actually going to get out of it. So if you're somebody like me who obsesses the way words are presented on a screen, obsesses about size, consistency, those kind of things, trying to create a presentation with AI might be very, very tedious. Now, I'm going to show you an extension on how you can do it to make your life easier. But I have created a lot of slides in this deck with AI and many without AI. The ones that have mistakes I have left in here on purpose to show you how bad it can be and how it can get even the simplest stuff wrong. For example, and I'm going to actually tell you which actual add-in, extension, or model that I used to generate slide. This slide was generated by Claude Anthropic using the PowerPoint Claude extension, which is a brand new extension that's only been available for a couple weeks now. Now, what I did was I had the entire PowerPoint done, and I just simply asked it to create an agenda slide. Okay, so rather than going through and updating my agenda slide every time I go through and make changes, wait till I'm in, go in at the end, click on the slide where I'm putting and say create a slide. And I'll show you how to do a little bit of that. But again, we're going to talk about some foundations. Since we focused a lot on Google in the last workshop, I'm going to focus a little bit more on Anthropic in this workshop. I'm still going to go over and provide an overview of the tools. Again, most people here have heard of AI, so I'm not going to spend a lot on the fundamentals. Again, AI is an umbrella, which represents the overarching vision and goal of creating intelligent machines that can reason, learn, and solve problems like humans do. I like this metaphor when trying to explain people what is the difference between Gen AI versus LLM versus tokens versus context window. Best way to look at this is imagine a generative AI as a car, okay? But it's a car that has a customizable, interchangeable engine. The engine is the actual model. So when we say things like Claude's Opus 4.6, that's a model. Think in the context of the vehicle metaphor, think 4-cylinder engine, 8-cylinder engine, 12-cylinder engine. Okay, and at the end of the day with AI, the metaphor that I always use is going grocery shopping. You can go grocery shopping with a Porsche Cayenne SUV. It's really, really nice, but you really only need 2 legs and a bag. It's how fast you want to get there, how much you want to carry, and how cool you want to look doing it, okay? And whether you value those things is going to depend on which models you choose. There's a term called AI aggregator app. So in past workshops, I've mentioned something called Perplexity, where it's one application, but allows you to have access to multiple models. So again, think one car, tons of different engine types. I got a racing engine. I've got a simple V4 engine. I've got an electric battery engine for when I just want to do simple calculations, not have to look anything up on the internet. What you'll learn as you go and you use AI, you just need to keep in mind, if you're paying for it, setting your payment limits on stuff. Because most of the people that are attending this class probably are not going to be the ones actually building apps. And the reason I say that is because as a small business owner, in order to build a functional app, you could build something in an hour. You can build something in 15 minutes. Whether it will work and scale is a completely different story. Simply building something, and this is where you got to break through a little bit of the hype on AI, because a lot of things involved with AI are just about selling you the product. The only thing that is true about AI is the price of AI today is more expensive than the price of AI tomorrow. These models get smaller. The energy that they're consuming is going to go down as a result of political pressure, but as a result of entropy and the way technology does. We started out with floppy disks, and now, my friend handed me a flash drive that contains 2 terabytes versus a floppy drive that contained 10 megabytes, 35 megs max. And now we have several times that. AI is much the same way. That's why when you look at a lot of companies, the models that I'm going to show you today, Anthropic's Claude models, might take you a little bit longer to get a response, but that response actually goes through multiple iterations of thought, processing, and reprocessing. So the actual product you get is better. You might go to Gemini and get an answer in 10 seconds. Claude might take a minute and a half, but it's going to go through, generate the output, review the output, check it against the prompt, make some changes, review it again, and then show it to you. So if you're somebody like, let's say at a small business, you're working on a deck for, let's say, a trade show presentation, you could have that stuff up on one, have it creating stuff on the background while you're on a Zoom call or doing else, and then you're just going in to check it. And I know all of this stuff probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'm going to show you what it is. The other reason is so, for example, in the last meeting we met, I showed you what Google Ultra is. I've since canceled Google Ultra since I'm not running giant large-scale applications, so I don't need 1 million tokens a month. And a lot of what I'm using with Google Gemini is the core tool set. Now, again, we talked about AI models. There's different types of models. So it can be a one-size-fits-all, but that is rarely what the case is. So for example, if you go in and you use Gemini and you ask Gemini to create a PowerPoint slide, Gemini's not actually going to create a PowerPoint slide. Gemini is going to create a Google slide, okay, that you can then view in Google Slides, okay? And frankly, it's probably not going to create a really good one unless you gave it an example to start with, okay? Because that's a model that's designed as a text model primarily. That's why for other tools like music generation, video generation, image generation, they try to send you to a different platform with a different user interface. Meanwhile, they make the basic creation available to the model that's available. So when you have an app, when you go onto the free versions online, you might be able to produce like one 15-second video, and then you have to sign in and pay. Other ones might let you do a couple images. Others, like Claude, will let you do a lot, but once you hit that limit, how much you spent, that fuel for the day, is when you're done. So tokens are nothing more than how much fuel it takes to process something. Now, just like in a car, if you're going on a 45-degree angle uphill for about, 1,000 feet, you're going to have to gun it to get up that hill. Now, if you could see the hill coming, you could probably adjust and you wouldn't need to use quite as much fuel. It's the same thing with AI, but just like when we're driving to a destination, we don't need to go over every hill. Sometimes there are shortcuts. Sometimes there are less busy routes to do things. And as a small business owner, you get things done when you can do them. And a lot of what AI offers is the ability to solve these problems asynchronously, meaning you can solve problems while you're doing other things or while you're doing your BAU work. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Anthropic and Claude today, but I want to kind of just talk a little bit about them since I've spent a lot of time in the past couple meetings talking about Google Gemini. So Gemini, again, developed by Google, aka DeepMind. It's really good for web searches and as well as workspaces. So, because most of the public schools, for example, use Gmail and the Google Kits. So it's used for that. So if you're somebody that lives within the Google ecosystem, Gemini might be really, really good for you. Context window, again, if you pay at the $250 a month thing, you can get up to 1 million tokens a month. I recently downgraded that because I don't even go, I haven't really gone beyond the pro unless I'm creating like the gaming engine, which again doesn't have a lot of marketable return on investment value. So, and again, you can access Gemini to google.com. So best choice for Google users, live info, multimedia tasks. Now, Anthropic's Claude is a little bit of a different beast where it's best for writing, reasoning, and document analysis. It is what is called in a lot of ways a lightweight model, meaning in the sense that it doesn't take the amount of resources and energy that something like Gemini or ChatGPT takes, okay? The reason it does is because their text model usually just generates text. They have an app and it has their image, but they're not focused on creating images. They're not focused on creating video. Anthropic and Claude are focused on productivity, okay? So a lot of times you will see software engineers, software developers using Claude and Anthropic because it integrates very easily into their development kit. So they can actually use that with their code creation tools. And I'm going to show you a little bit about that in a couple minutes when I bring up and I show Claude Desktop. So, and it's, again, the context window is a little bit smaller. It's up to 200,000 tokens. But again, the lighter the model, the less fuel it's going to consume to do the same task. So if I'm just asking a model to write an email for me, I don't necessarily need Gemini for that. Especially if I want it to be succinct, simple, practical, I'm going to use Claude for that. If I'm going to create apps on my phone, and I'll show you some apps that I created over the past weekend to give you an idea of what you can create and kind of what you can't create in some instances too. So again, Google integration, what you'll see is Google has a lot of tools, okay? Claude has one app that does a lot of things. That's a very different approach. Whereas, to give you an example, so I'm just going to talk about Claude. So again, this is Anthropic. So this was started by, in 2021 by people who left OpenAI to create a company focused on AI safety. Claude models excel at writing, analysis, coding, research, and complex reasoning. And again, available starting at $20 all the way up to, I think, $250 a month. Claude has, like, you're going to notice a lot of the tools just say Claude.ai because most of the tools are available in Claude's basic application. So Claude Code is an agentic coding tool. I'll show you what that is in a couple minutes. Desktop agent Claude Cowork. I'm also going to show you that. It's a desktop app. So basically, this is an app you install on your laptop or your desktop, and you can give it access to your Gmail. You can even give it access to the entire underlying file directory in your laptop. But you're not giving the vendor access to your file directory. You're giving the application on your local computer access to that. And again, it's downloading models, it's downloading stuff to your laptop. So you'll notice, again, when I go and show how this works, some of the stuff in Claude takes a little bit longer to work than it does in ChatGPT or Gemini, but you might get it in one try on Claude versus 3, 4, 5, 6 tries on the other applications. And then computer use. So let's say, for example, I'm somebody that, and small business owners, some of you tech savvy guys might have a server running at your house. They might have something running at work that stores all of your camera information and then a backup for all your files and a cloud, things like that. You can actually use these AI tools to remotely access that machine and do stuff. So like say, for example, you want to, like you had mentioned about pushing out promotional. Let's say you drafted a promotional thing in Claude at home. It's ready to go out. You're at the office. You realize I need to send that. You can actually go into the chat interface on your phone and say, go to my PC, go to this, publish this out to the audience that's specified for it, and it will go in there and do that. Claude was designed by engineers for engineers, but it was designed so even non-technical people can use it. So again, and artifacts, rather than continue to talk forever about this, I want to go ahead and jump in and show you this. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. So what I'm showing you now, this is a look at the Claude desktop application. So again, similar, it looks very similar online. The only difference is with now you have this concept called cowork. Within this, I can schedule jobs, I can do things. So like say, for example, I wanted to create something where I went out on the internet and I'll just give an example. So earlier this week, I was trying to create a application to help some of my friends apply to the Delaware Edge grant process. So if you're, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, the Edge grant is a small Delaware Division of Small Business grant, which is a 3-to-1 match. So you make a proposal, you submit the proposal, and then when you pay for, the items in your proposal as part of your plan, the state reimburses you 3-to-1. So it's a way to, get things done for your small business while at the same time getting extra startup capital for hitting milestones. So it's something that, again, it's a reimbursement loan, but let's say you sign up for $60,000 and you go and you complete the first leg of that, you get 3 times that back. So you're getting, and again, it's up to the full amount, but the goal here is that by identifying projects, executing on those projects, adding value to the community, we're then putting more money into your business so that you can continue to do more projects, continue to hire more people. So I just wanted it to help me, like to figure out how to write it, but it jumped in and decided to create an app for it instead. What it basically did is choose application. So within artifacts, so when you create anything, when you build an application, when you generate an image, it's called an artifact. So it's something that's created that the model does. Obviously, all this stuff is done in the cloud, so it's all stored in the cloud. So for example, if I go in here and I want to say, and I'm just going to start using the voice thing just to make life easier for time. Go online and look up bpa.org and provide an overall executive summary of this organization, what it does, and the audience that it caters to. Am I still transmitting? Okay. Okay, so the service crashed. Okay. In the spirit of, because this is live and, whenever you're doing anything live, stuff can go to crap and just stop working because that's the way life goes. So I'll say this. Go online to the Delaware Small Business website. Go online. Sorry. So I sincerely apologize, but it appears that I've used all of my tokens trying to create all of my examples to show you. Yes, that's exactly what it's telling me. That's lame. Oh, oh, the actual app itself. Okay. All right. In the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and jump. So, to talk about the Google stuff, Claude might come back online. So, the things that I want to show today, sorry. Mhm. Well, the cool thing is you can ask the AI to fix it so that it conforms with whatever the API is. So you can set it to upload a file, reformat the file, and then inject the file into the API. Because yes, you're right. All APIs do have very rigid standards. Now, what they do with these is they make them a lot more flexible because obviously in some places you're just inserting text and getting a response back. But what it will do is, and what I was hoping to show with Claude, but it's offline, Claude actually shows you the reasoning it goes through to create that. Like, for example, when I asked it to create an application, I said, create an application to allow small business people to apply for the EDGE grant. Before it does that, I want to go through a checklist so that the person knows whether or not they qualify for the loan first. And then it goes through a checklist and then has them enter in their business information, and then it generates an application based on that. While I was going through it, while I was using it, I said, okay, here's a business online, go through and test the application and what the output looks like. And it did that. And it suggested, improvement plans, things that I could do based on what it found out on the particular business. But again, what it's doing is I'm communicating with the interface and Claude is communicating with the APIs. So when you create a project, you can put all of those services together. Like you create one app that like one app, for example, that checks to see if they're valid, gets the information together. And then another one that goes through and expands that application based on information available on their website or maybe another document you provide. Now, when it comes to working on projects, so I want to show Pomeli. Um, so this is a pretty interesting app that Google has. So again, I'm logged in, and again, this is just under the Pro. So what you can do is you can go and you can generate the business DNA. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and a nonprofit that I work with, I'm going to go ahead and enter it, which is bpa.org. You could do this on your own site. And then you can continue. And what it will do is it's going to analyze the website and it's going to do things like figure out the color scheme, fonts. And you can see, so this is generating it, we're researching it, studying your brand's values. Now, like you had mentioned about APIs, you see this is a completely separate app in Google. Now in Claude, it's an extension or a library that you can add to Claude to be able to do this, but it's not available in like the base model. Like I can ask it to go to a website and do that, but if I wanted really in-depth marketing, it would go on here. So while that's loading, okay, sorry. Thank you for letting me know. Whoa, that's like, believe it or not, I actually blew through the $17 one already. Thank you. So apparently when you create like 4 or 5 apps and then delete them, it doesn't like that and it still charges you anyway, which obviously it does. So I apologize for that. Yeah, when you blow through an app, you can get it through really quickly. Okay. I had AI make a multiple choice quiz this year, and every answer was C. It doesn't surprise me because it's thinking you want to make it grading as easy as possible. But you could easily just put into the chat information and say, rewrite the following so that the same A, B, C, D, E definition varies across all answers. or just say, make it so that not every answer is C. Now, it may come back to you and change all but one to C, but depends on how much you really think kids are going to look at that pattern. Although, to be honest, if you made all of them C, the kid would sit there and question themselves probably a lot more. That it can't all be C. They really can't all be C. And then every quiz that you make, you just A is the real answer, this one, or B is the real answer. It can make it really easy for you for grading, but. And then have you tried using the incognito version in Claude? Is there an advantage to that? When you're trying to act as someone who's not logged in, incognito can be useful for that. I mean, incognito doesn't capture a lot of stuff. You can train, there's things that you can do in Claude where you can actually have it go into a browser and execute stuff for you. So you can actually like write down, go into this website, go to this web page, click download, save this file to cloud, and then run this through another process. You could set up something on Claude to do that. Um, so now what I'm going to do is, so now I do apologize because in typical fashion, so this is what I was mentioning before, which is the Pomeli application. So what it does, it extracts the hex code. So for those of you who don't know, hex codes are how you convert, are basically computer code for colors and styling and things like that. So it'll actually extract those from a given website. So I'm going to jump back. So you can see this is the actual DNA that it actually extracted from this. So you can see it came up with the color scheme, identified the font that's used most often, found the logo, found the tagline, brand values. Overall looks good. Now from here, if I wanted to, I could describe a campaign to recruit judges for nationals. And then have it generate ideas. Pomeli, Pomeli. And this is, so all of these tools that I'm going to show you on Google can be found at labs.google.com. So they're all part of the Google Labs. So there's going to be some things like the video game thing that I showed last time. That's obviously only going to be available if you have the 1,000,000 token subscription, but almost everything else is. Anything that's not video or gaming doesn't use that many tokens compared to everything else. And again, now apparently it has a mobile app for this as well. So it's starting to mock these up. So scout the nation's best talent. So you can pick the idea that you like, and then it will actually render potential social media marketing. It'll run and give you the code for that, or it'll create. So in this particular, these are the different tiles that it could send out, and you can pick from these, you can modify these. So all it's doing is taking an existing website, extracting all the brand content from that, and then putting it in a way that, so again, you can fix the layout here. Okay, so it fixed it a little bit. And then if I download this, downloads this in a JPEG that I can paste online with whatever text that I want to paste. Now I can also, if I wanted to, let's say, for example, I'm doing a product. So this is a product photo shoot. So let me find a product. Okay, I'm going to pick this product, which is this really ridiculous pop socket with a piece of toast on it. Okay. Now you see, that's one of the annoying things about Google. Drag and drop doesn't work. So in here, I could select brand guidelines. Let's say I'm advertising this, and then it will actually create templates for you based on various things. So you can upload it, obviously, like 1 or 2 pictures of something, and it'll actually go through and create Photoshop content for you. Again, and then with business DNA, you can do this for anything. You can try that. You can reset this and do a different business. So let's say you're somebody who works in different nonprofits. You could do this to grab the DNA for something, create a promotional for this. A lot of times, because of, like, for example, with the workshops that I do, like, I like to be able to make sure that when I'm sending something out, it all has the same style, the same fonts, all of that. This helps you can be consistent with all of that, especially if you're not somebody who's technical. This allows you to come up with some ideas really, really quickly that you can use. And then let's jump back. So the one thing I really want to show is Notebook LM. Okay. So Notebook LM is one of those really good things, especially if you've got a team that's working completely on. So I'm just going to go to Notebook LM. Now, Notebook LM, you can see on here, I've created a bunch of different what are called workbooks. So when I create a workbook, you can go in and you can actually select the sizes, and you can actually share this workbook with other Google users as well. So in this, I went ahead and I uploaded a bunch of stuff in here because I wanted to see how bad it was at creating a PowerPoint. Okay. Now, what I came to find out was in testing the limits of this, most create a slide deck PowerPoint actions in an LLM is going to limit it to 10 slides. The only one that could handle an outline of more than 15 slides was Microsoft Copilot. So, like, for example, when I asked it to do it for this, I gave it too much information, and it gave me a whole bunch of not quite specific to my use case as a lawyer, but not really good for a small business. So like for example, I asked it to create a slide deck for me, and it completely failed. Like I ended up, so this presentation that I've done today, I have done, deleted, and redone about 6 times. Because what I found out was the way that it thinks use cases are for small business isn't the way small businesses actually use this. So for example, like I go back to my business card use case. Let's say you got a stack of business cards, okay, and you want to convert them. Now, a developer might say, I'm going to create an app that does that, okay? Whereas some small business owner would be like, I really don't need an app. I just need something for my contact information. So what you would do instead, why is it not coming up? Sorry. Oh, the whole thing is down. Of course it is. So annoying. Figures the one day where I say, I'm not going to show you a bunch of Google stuff because Claude's a lot easier to use. And then all of a sudden the entire app goes down for a day. So those of you who came to see Claude, I sincerely apologize. But that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But like say, for example, the other thing that's nice about this, so let me jump back in. So you could create, let's say, like in this case, I just had a big event where I did a bunch of stuff for school, for some school kids. Okay. So in this, I added the photos album from Google Photos. I added survey responses, things like that. And then what I did was I asked it to create an overview of this. So this is what it actually created. This is a way for you to have everybody in your team work on the same set of documents. So you could, let's say you've got a new initiative for rollout of product X. You create product X. Now within that, you add sources like PowerPoint specs for that product, sample images of the product. And then you go online and you grab customer testimonials about the product. And then what you have is now you have a command center where you can go in and let's say I want to create video overview. It lets me choose between cinematic, explainer, brief, AI basics, things like that. So let's say I want to do a cinematic. And like I showed you in Claude, where it had a separate menu and it had all the artifacts, here, right here on the right, is all the artifacts that I've generated for this project. So it keeps everything until you delete it. So if you create multiple versions, you're going to see multiple versions of things in here. Like I can give you an example of, so like here, I was asking it to write a newsletter article. So I used the information in here to build a newsletter article. And then I also created, so again, I had it try to recreate my gaming presentation from last time. Again, it kind of did it. I mean, these slides at initial value look really great. Like they're really colorful. But then when you start to read the text and stuff, you're like, what the hell is this guy actually saying? Like I did not put any of these clip art or anything on there. It's what it suggested. Now, you'll see that in the presentation that I sent out, I kept a bunch of these in there to show what it was generated. But this is what happens when you don't just generate it based on text by itself. I used previous workshops to create this. So if you're a small business owner, use previous pitch decks that you've already done, use that as a base source, the same way you would be training a new employee. You can create a workspace, put all that information in there, and then you guys can create all these artifacts, whatever you need to. And the best part is everything that's there can be reused. So you don't have to worry about, is such and such using the wrong version of this file? Did such and such create something without the context? All of that information is built into this. Now, this was good, but again, kind of cool, but it merged. What it did was, instead of giving me an overview of my event, it combined all of the data sources. So you have to be more specific in what you're asking it for. But again, when you create just a chat window, imagine that's the only memory that that thing has, is what's in that window. When you create this, you're creating a potential long-term memory storage for that one session. And then you can share it out with different people on your team, and have them actually go in and work on it and things like that too. And again, it's, you could, or let's say, for example, you add a bunch of Excel documents in here. So within here, you add a bunch of sales transactions, a bunch of inventory sheets. You could actually use this to just jump in and create reports based on briefing document, blog post, things like that, based on the metrics that are in here. What this does is it kind of cobbles together very common things that teams will build together. And then they've made these little microservices that you can create. So I could spin up, like say, for example, I want to create a new notebook for grab the best YouTube videos it'll actually go in, search websites, and add those as a source to this. So let's say, for example, you're operating in a nonprofit. You can give it access to your entire website. You can give it access to the calendar, all of that information, and you can use Notebook LM as basically your command center to work on that project. So you can see it went in and grabbed these. So I could just say, So it went ahead and identified 10 videos. I'm going to go ahead and import them all. And then when it goes through and it updates, and I'm just going to call this. Okay. And see, and then what it did, it automatically summarized here everything that I uploaded as sources. So when the person logs in for the first time, they can jump in and they can see that. So I could say if I wanted to data table. And the cool thing is I'm not waiting. I can queue all of this stuff up, generate it, and then and then go do something else, come back in a little bit, look at the output and see if I need to create them again. I have found that a lot of high school kids are using this as a way for their group projects. They get everything in one place, they put all the stuff in one place, they can agree on the outputs, they can create different versions, and then they meet together and vote on which one's the best one. And then that's what they actually provide and they actually submit. So you're taking it away from just giving the kids AI to solve a problem and giving them better ways to collaborate, faster prototyping, which inevitably is going to lead to better outputs, higher quality outputs, those kind of things. So let's see what it did here. So I asked it to create a spreadsheet. Not bad. So if you wanted to, you can go scrape YouTube for a subject matter and grab everything and then pull this in here. Now you had been talking about finding leads and things like that. You could create link to a bunch of websites that have feeds and then have this go in and update the source every day to go in and pull something new for you, to pull in a list of information. What I like about this is it gives you the kind of long-term memory you don't get with the chat sessions. So if you use ChatGPT, if you use Claude or any of those, you have to give it permission to remember things across chat sessions. And even if you give it permission, it doesn't always do it really well. Sometimes it remembers too much and gives you the wrong answer because it's considering completely irrelevant conversations as well as relevant ones. But again, with this, gives you a single place to go in, build all of that stuff out. So within this, I can create a video overview if I wanted to. So let's just say, so this is then what it built. Again, it's not a bad output. It's understandable mostly. I mean, what do you guys think? Is this useful? Not really. I mean, it looks cool, but does it actually help you learn anything? And this is why there's so much AI slop on the internet right now, is because a lot of people just create stuff and post it, create stuff and post it. And they're not really going through and validating if the actual thing they created adds value, adds understanding, or any of those kind of things. But again, it's letting you, yeah. Well, and that's good on certain things. But again, if one paragraph on there is wrong, trying to change that one paragraph sucks. Like, and again, that's what I was hoping to show with Claude is, so when you go, like, for example, like when I go in here, so I can bring up the Claude, although Claude's probably down, so it's probably not going to bring it up at all. So So this one's actually using the add-in. So it's not having to connect to the full Claude. It's just using a PowerPoint add-in. So it's using a library specifically for PowerPoint prompts. And this is the difference between using an app and using an add-in or an API integration. They may be focused on one thing or doing one thing really well. Well, if that one thing is important to you and makes or breaks your business, like I don't like having them create decks because I have to edit every slide. I have to change every slide. I have to massage every slide. I want an assistant sitting right next to me that I can tell it to do stuff in the deck. So like, for example, as I was going through preparing this deck, I was editing slides, I was having it go back through and edit it. But you can see in here, it's not just doing what I told it to do. It's actually going through a thinking and reasoning process of how to actually generate what I asked it to. So it went through the entire deck, finds all of the tool slides, and then it went through and it's finding all the information it needs to produce the list, and then it's building the content slide with the URLs. And they even suggested organizing it by section, which I didn't ask for. But again, it's making an assumption based on what a lot of other people who've asked similar questions have done. Okay. For most of the graphics, I use Google Gemini. So I've used ChatGPT for it. I like Gemini a lot better. It can create things. When I first started doing this, I had to explain to it what I meant by Zoom wallpaper because it did not understand that concept very well. So like here, I can ask it, by the way, when you have all the add-ins, it logs you in automatically. You can just bring up a window and jump in and go. So in here, I can say, create a Zoom wallpaper. In Jurassic World. Now, if it generates correctly, I'll tell you the custom instructions that I gave to Gemini when it generates my images. But again, what you're starting to see here, so if I'm not bad at all for a Zoom wallpaper. It's learned a lot about what Zoom wallpaper meant. Before I had to tell it, when I say Zoom wallpaper, what I mean is a widescreen image where you should assume that the center third of the image is taken up by the human being who is on camera. That's the extent. And once it explained and understood that, I could create really high, and I'm probably going to save this and use this. So this is good. Let's just try to do something simple to this, okay? Remove the person. So it's an empty chair. Change nothing else. I'm totally stealing that for work. My current background at work is what Lex Luthor's office would look like in Metropolis. Now, you see what I mean? Trying to edit the image, it has to think a lot harder. Whereas if I did this as an add-in potentially, and that's why, for example, you see a lot of people using Canva and then the AI in Canva because it takes better instructions than this does. Because again, this is just a free range model trying to guess on what I mean. Okay, so not bad. So just a chair. So when I show this as my Zoom wallpaper, it's just going to show me in the middle and it's look like I'm really more important than I actually am. Again, I find Google Gemini creates really high quality images. Most of what I am creating are images based on other images, like update this image. I've actually gone so far as to create receipts that I lost by simply, you can upload a receipt and say, I forgot the receipt. Here's the receipt. I got the same thing on this date. create a digital receipt, and it literally, you can't tell the difference between the two. I'll leave that all up to the fraud people at my job and everybody else to investigate. But if you are somebody who needs to provide receipts and you have transaction documentation, you can retroactively create receipts with this too. If you have a model, if you have an example, it's going to be 10 times better than if you just try to create it out of nowhere. Like for example, when I had to cancel our last one, I used the AI to update the little icon that the library people created for me to say that it was going to be rescheduled. And I said, update this icon so that it says rescheduled for June, blah, blah, blah. Did it real quick, downloaded it, pasted it on the internet as soon as I knew I wasn't going to be able to have this. Again, I'm not replacing the initial designer who created it. I'm trying to find faster ways to get things done. And I'm trying to take time out of my day. So like for this, so I'll just go ahead and do this again. So again, somebody had asked about the images. So that's how I created images. Let's go back in here and see how this did with creating my little movie. Still trying to create a movie. Now I have seen this thing spin and spin and spin and not finish. So then I just cancel it and then create a new one. Sometimes the internet goes out, sometimes it craps out. Again, these tools are not, in a lot of cases, they're experimental. So let me just jump in and look at. So it covers that. How are we doing on time? Oh shit, we're really over time. So I apologize again. I wanted to show more stuff with Claude today, but apparently that's just not going to happen today. Oh, here we go. Here's another fun thing that I use Claude for, okay? So I had a bunch of business cards, okay, that were previously just sticking up right next to my monitor that I decided I wanted to convert to contacts. So all I did was take an image of the business card and say, extract the text from this business card and create a VCF file, which stands for virtual contact file, which is the default contact type for files in your iPhone. And then it instantly creates this and prompts me to add the card. But you can see it's grabbed the company name, it's grabbed all of it. So I literally, in about, let's see, I literally did like 15 in like 5 minutes and got them all converted to contacts and then got a whole bunch of paper off my desk. Again, these are things you can do too, where let's say, for example, you're getting invoices that come in. You could set something up to have a bunch of invoices come into a folder on that machine, and then you could create a job for Claude to take that invoice, create a summary for it, and add it to another database for your reporting. Or to automatically batch all of the invoices together for one day and then send out one update that tells you everything that's going on for that particular day. All you're doing is thinking about, now I don't have to physically stop, go in, read, think, compile, write, send. Now, I'm not saying you want it to automatically send the summary that it does, but if that first version takes away 70% of the work for you, why not? And the thing that I want to kind of, because I know we're over time, so I appreciate everybody hanging with me today. Today didn't quite go the way I planned, but I apologize. There are a lot of other use cases in the document. So things like, for example, let's say you have a good way of using Google Notebook LLM is to take all of your procedures, your charter, your board of directors agreements, all of that, throw that all into one thing. Then you can create digital training material in every aspect of your business. You can create video how-tos. If your documentation is good, you can create unlimited content just by putting that all together in one notebook project. A lot of this is about just stopping for 5 minutes, thinking about what you're doing, and deciding if what you're going to do next is the most optimal way to do it, or it's just a way to do it. And if it's something you're doing multiple times a day or multiple times a week, look into how you can automate that. And not every single person is going to be an AI developer, okay? I mean, you guys saw today, I had all these great plans and stuff that I was going to show you, and then Claude went down. So it happens. But the key is, and this is why I say not to get tied to one model. I subscribe to 2 models, Gemini and Claude, because I use a lot of the Claude stuff. I use a lot of the Gemini stuff. That's what works for me. If ChatGPT works for you, great, cool, awesome. I'm not saying it doesn't, but just make sure you're always validating your outputs before you actually send them out. Because if you're not, trust me, nothing more embarrassing than sending out a list of dates to find out that they're not actually all Wednesdays on a calendar and it just grabbed random dates because it screwed up that one time. So the last thing I want to say is, the last thing I want to kind of mention is this, and this is just kind of a life lessons thing for me. So in December 27th of this year, I was in a really bad car accident. I was knocked unconscious in the accident. I woke up to state police and EMS pulling me out of the car 3 minutes from the actual accident. So my iPhone sensed that I was in an accident, was able to sense that the airbags deployed, and sent that data instantly to emergency services. And you can see on here, these are the texts my wife got letting her know I was in an accident. And then the second text is what happened when they moved me from the accident to Christiana Hospital. AI saved my life. Okay? I'm not here to tell you that AI is 100% good. I'm not here to tell you that data centers are 100% good. But I can tell you that automation can make people's lives better. And when you're somebody driving an hour and a half each way home, you owe it to your family to enable this stuff on your phone. And it's not about Big Brother. It's about making sure that when the unexpected happens, you're able to respond even when you're not able to respond. And I'll leave you with this as kind of my last thought for today, which is you can't control every wave, but you can always learn how to sail. Don't wait for the world to make room for you, make room for yourself. Life won't always bend to your needs, but you always have a choice in how you respond. That's where real power lives. Thank you all for your time.